What's going on, Denver?
How's it going, Kevin? Things going all right
Alright.
over here.
What was that?
Said things are going all right over here.
Nice.
So, yeah, we're excited to see kind of some of the new features we got rolling out, and I'm sure plenty others are. So, yeah.
Yeah. So the first big product update is the change order request. So Denver, I don't know how much you've seen clients use change order requests, but I guess what were some of the things that I think you've seen that needed maybe an update on?
I think some of I think general workflow of it, probably just from a processing standpoint is probably the biggest thing as far as like the pending change order stuff like that. But I think that's probably the biggest, or like approving them, that kind of process.
Yeah, and that's really what we kind of try to focus on is not really changing the actual like functionality of the change order request, but really just making it kind of more streamlined and easier to use. So if I go to the change order request module here, what you'll kind of see is it really just got like an overall just kind of general facelift to make it a little bit easier to use. So the first one is you'll kind of see on this table here, we've kind of made the columns a little bit more clean. You can see kind of the different statuses submitted, the resolve, contract cost, schedule impact, but really where a lot of the focus was on the actual change order request itself. So if I go to create a new one here, I'll be prompted to give it a title. So I can call it, say, ASI 34. And you'll see it's got kind of a much more kind of general look and feel to it than what was before. So probably the biggest thing here is we've added a description field. So on the existing change order request, before the updates, if you wanted to create a change order request, you could add a description for the individual line items, but not an overall description for the actual change order request. So here you can go in and say, okay, on this ASI 34 here, you can say maybe we increased the L2 deck thickness by 2 inches.
Yep.
So you can kind of say just, hey, what were the general changes here? And then all the other functionality you saw, so updating the additional schedule days is kind of up here at the top now. So I can quickly say, hey, I've just got 5 days. I can assign who this change order request is for. So I'm just going to pick a random. Let's just do this here. So real easy, kind of more streamlined. And then on the line items, this is another big change. We found before when you were adding line items, it was a real cramped workspace to add all the different components you had. So now it's a more step-by-step workflow. So you'll see it's kind of broken into labor, material, equipment, subcontractors. So I can come in here, give the line item a name, so I can call it additional concrete. All of the labor roles that I have set up in the settings will automatically populate. So if I've got 5 additional days here, I can say, all right, this is going to take 40 hours. The foreman's going to be 40 hours. I'm going to have 2 journeymen on site and 2 apprentices. So it's going to start doing all the math for me. I can set my bond rate and the self-performed markup in the settings. And again, that's going to kind of auto calculate here. And then kind of just go step by step. So I can do the same thing for material. Let's say I've got a 3000 PSI mixed design. Maybe it's 160 cubic yards and it's 120 bucks per yard. So it's going to start adding it. I can add attachments here. So if I want to add the quote from the concrete plant, I can add it here. Same thing with equipment, subcontractors. Let's say I've got a concrete pump on site for 5 days at 1200. It's going to add all of that for me. Again, bond rate, subcontractor, markup, and then I can continue. I'm going to see a summary here of everything that's included in it. And then when I save it, it's going to add that line item there. You'll see it does all the math for me. I can see my total kind of budget contract amount. And then if I need to add additional line items, then I can. And then down
No, it
below
looks a
that, you
lot
can still,
cleaner for that, for sure.
what's that?
That looks a lot cleaner and a lot more user friendly, like you said, instead of the like flat window kind of option we had before, yeah.
Exactly, and that's kind of what we're seeing. There just wasn't enough room in the flyout window, so when people were entering it, it was a real abbreviated. So hopefully this allows you to enter all the details that you need to, while still kind of keeping it at a line item basis. And then on that change order request, if I want to add any qualifications, assumptions, and notes, I still have kind of that same section that we have on the existing one. So I can come in here and say, hey, I need clear access for concrete assumed or something like that. So like I said, all the functionality is still the same as the existing change order request. We're just trying to make it a little bit easier to use, both in terms of how you update your line items and then also adding that quick description for the change order request. Because the other thing that we wanted to add here is when you export it to a PDF, you now have 3 different options. So you can do the full detailed view, which would show you the full line item breakdown on the change order request. So I can see not only my line item amount, the qualifications, assumptions, and notes, but then I can see the actual breakdown that I've entered for the labor and material subcontractors, etc. If I don't want to show that level of detail and I just want to show the condensed view, this would basically show me my line item total, but not the full breakdown. And you can see I'm only showing the contract amount. I'm not showing any of the cost or budgeting that I've entered here. And then the last one, because you really just want to show what the total change order request is, you can see it this way, where it would just basically show the total amount and you're not even breaking it down by line item. So that's the other thing that we've tried to incorporate into these new updates is we understand that when you submit change order requests to your clients, they might have different requirements in terms of what level of detail you need to show. So those different PDF options allow you to show either that summary, condensed, or detailed view.
And just the flexibility is gonna help out a lot with that too, so, yeah.
And then just some other kind of general changes here. So we've updated how you can do the revision. So you can just add a new one here and then go back and select email history. You can come in here, send an email, add any notes. So you can say, hey, this is all the cost impacts ASI 34. I can select what level of detail I want the PDF to have, who I'm sending that email to, and then when I send it, so if you're doing it in a demo, you'll see how it will go through, and then you can kind of go back and see that email history. So again, we're just kind of adding, a couple cleaner workflows to the change order request, but all the functionality is in large part still the same. So that was the first big update in the release this week, was kind of, like I said, just a general UI update to the change order request. The other big one is building on the Project Billings module. So this is really for anyone that is using the payout workflow in the system. So if you are going into ProNovos, setting up your schedule of values and submitting your monthly payouts in ProNovos, so basically what you're billing on each line item, what we have now is a tool that basically allows you to analyze your over/under billings. So if you say, hey, I'm overbilled by $20,000 on a project, this is going to tell you, okay, what is actually leading to that over/under billing? How does it break down per line item? How does it break down based on just the structure of your schedule of values versus what your actual costs are? So the first thing you would do when you go to this page here is, if you go to the settings, you're going to see a list of all of your cost codes and cost classes on the project. And you can basically select which schedule of value that this budget line item is affiliated with. So I can see I've got a cost code for rough plumbing and electrical. Well, obviously that's going to go to my rough plumbing and electrical SOV. And then on certain line items, like let's say, vehicles, that's obviously not going to be tied to one specific line item. You can just leave that blank there. And what that does is it's basically going to go through and look at what your budget is for each schedule of value. So if I consider my rough plumbing and electrical, I can go through and see all the cost codes that I mapped that line item, and I can see it has a $53,000 budget. So now that tells me what I should be billing on each line item based on what that budget amount is. So I can see what my costs are on the project. So I can say, okay, I've got $8,000 in costs so far on this project. That is 15% of my $53,000 budget. So I should really only be 15% billed because I'm only 15% complete, but I'm actually 36% billed. So that starts to tell me what my over under billing is per line item. And then because I know kind of what my budget is on each line item, I can actually start to break down, okay, what should I have been billed on this project if I only billed at 15%? So I should have only been billed $16,518. And that means that my structural over under billing, so my over and under billing that's from how I structured my schedule values, is $237. And then my true over under billing, so what am I actually overbilled based on that 16% versus the 30% that I've actually billed, is 23,000. And critically, what that's going to tell me is what my expected costs are on this lineup. So my expected costs are 19,000, which is $11,000 less than what my actual costs to date are of 8,000. So what's driving that cost variance? Is it because I actually have cost savings on a project, or is it due to a overbilling, like a true overbilling? Am I actually only 15% complete and I billed 30%? Or am I having schedule delays where I thought I would be more complete today than I am? So it lets you start to break down per line item what the actual kind of math is that's driving that over under billing. So you're not just looking at kind of the total over under billing on a project. You can actually start to drill into how is your budget, how is your cost actually contributing to that overbilling and underbilling.
Yeah, and this is a awesome level of detail because, like you said, we have some dashboards around like the company monthly that gives you kind of that expected billing, but still at the job level, this will give a lot of great detail on those item by item amounts, and getting this implemented for everyone is going to be huge for just keeping tabs on these jobs as well.
Yeah, and it is like, I'm sure the first time you look at this, there's a lot of columns here, there's a lot of math going on. But at a first glance, really what you want to focus on is the difference between the contract value here and their calculated contract value. So this is obviously like what you've set up and submitted to the client, right? So I've said on, let's use finished plumbing and electrical, I submitted $90,000. But if I look at how I've actually budgeted my project here, and it makes up 29% of my total budget, that means that this line item should have been $98,000 if I was just going in an exact percentage of what my budget is to what that should have been from a contract amount. So what this tells me is anytime that I bill on this line item, it's going to create an inherent underbilling, because that means if I bill 50%, well, I should have been building 49,000, but I'm only going to be billing 45,000 based purely just on how the schedule of values is set up. So this is a really good one to kind of focus on. It's just what the general structure of your schedule value is and how much you're front loading it versus back loading it, and how that might impact your over under billings as the project goes on.
I agree. Just getting that difference, like you said, for are the markups appropriately distributed, or are you going to make more or less money on certain line items based on how much of the budget is allocated to those line items?
Yeah. And then the other one kind of worth zeroing in on here is this unallocated cost. So these are all the costs, if I go back to my settings here, that I didn't map to a specific schedule value. So these are all things that are going to be, persistent throughout the project. So supervision, project management, project admin, costs that I would expect to be evenly distributed throughout the project. So here I can see I've got $34,000 in cost to date against a budget of 68,000. So what that's telling me is I'm already 51% on those costs that are going to last the whole project. But if I look at my rest of my percent complete, I'm only 22% complete. So I'm burning through those general conditions way faster than I'm actually making progress on the schedule. So that's usually a really good indicator that, hey, either you're going to have some serious budget overruns here because you're running long, or something else is going on where maybe the admin's kind of front loaded at the beginning of the project. But that's always really good to zero on here, is those unallocated costs that are usually the costs that are going to span your whole project. Are you burning through them faster than you're burning through your actual percent complete on a project?
Yeah, this is great. It's just as simple as I can put it.
Yeah. So like I said, I know the over under billings, you know, it can be daunting. I think this is a great tool to kind of help PMs really start to understand not only what their overbilling is, but really what's kind of behind it and what's driving it. So this is something I think we'll kind of continue to build on in future product updates, everything around project billings, how we interpret overbillings, underbillings, etc.
Yep.
But yeah, those are the two big product updates that were released this week. Like I said, the change order request module really just getting kind of a general facelift overall, making some of the workflows cleaner, adding descriptions, making the line items, adding different PDF options, and then this over under billing analysis if you are using the pay app and SOV workflow through ProNovos.
Yeah, and if you guys have questions or want a refresher or, learn some more about how to set it up in the system, feel free to reach out and we'll be more than happy to set up some time and just kind of walk you through it. But yeah, if you guys, I don't know if anyone has any questions or anything for Kevin and I while you got us. If not, we can wrap it up here.
Very cool. Well, yeah, if we got no questions, we'll call it. And we're going to start trying to do these product update meetings every time we release a new product update. Usually it's bi-weekly, so keep an eye out for future invites if you want to learn more about the upcoming product releases that we'll be having.
Yep, very nice. Well, thanks for showing it off here, Kevin. Appreciate it as always.
Thanks, guys.
All right, see you, everyone.